Greetings and welcome to the World Numismatic News as we now take a look at Lincoln cent varieties from 1960. Now, when discussing the 1916 penny varieties, inevitably, the first thing that needs to be addressed is the fact that this was a transitional year, with both large and small date coins known to exist. The problem was that fairly early on, the mint found that the new design 1960 date, at least the zero in particular, was prone to cracking and filling. So the date was redesigned slightly and the new large date type was created. Only 2,075,000 coins were minted at Philadelphia in January, followed by absolutely none in February, so it is then reasonable to assume that the January mintage was the small date and the minting that then resumed once again in March was of the larger date design coins. The zero of 1960 is much larger, as the name indicates, on the large date design, as well as being perfectly round where the small date was more of an oval shape. The 6 is also much taller on the large date coin, and all of the numbers are level towards the top except for the 6 on the small date. But with the larger date, the 9 is slightly taller than the 1 and the 0. The upper or top tip of the 6 is also then more pointed on the small date coin and rather squared off on the larger date type. Both large and small date coins are known for Philadelphia and the Denver Mint, in addition to the proof coins for the year. But only the Philadelphia Mint small date coins are considered to be more valuable. Now, during this era, proof coins were still minted at Philadelphia, and there are a few really good varieties to look for here. The first is a doubled obverse variety known as the large date over small date type. The name really does say it all. The first hubbing took place with a small date type and then the second with a large date, leading to the characteristic doubling that is seen on this coin, where you do see more attractive doubling on the letters of Liberty, in particular the letters of E, R, T, and Y. But without a doubt, the main attraction, so to speak, is the numbers on the date, where you can clearly see the mismatched dates, the smaller 0 under the larger 0 being particularly noticeable, and the different sizes on the tops of the 6 is also quite effectively demonstrated here. For this coin, we can point to an example that was sold at auction in 2024, graded by NGC as Proof 68 Red for the sum of $474. And then for the next coin, we have the exact inverse of the previous case, where here, instead, it is a small date design that was impressed over top an existing large date design. The way to identify the coin is much the same as in the large date over small date case from just before. But here, there is also some minor doubling to be seen on the letters of In God We Trust as well, especially to the tops of the letters of Trust. As like before, the letters of Liberty are nicely affected, but pay particular attention to the B, E, and R for the best doubling. But the first place that you will likely look, naturally, would be the date. Every number is doubled spectacularly, and you can see the difference between the two designs even clearer on this variety as well. A coin like this was sold at auction in 2022, slabbed by PCGS with a grade of Proof 66 Deep Cameo for the price of $2,925. Then we come to the third obverse variety for this issue, and rather aptly and somehow fortuitously, it is actually a tripled obverse variety, in this specific form of a large date over small date coin. Here the letters of In God We Trust are affected more noticeably. Most of the letters are thicker than they normally would appear to be, but the W and E show clear doubling, and the letters of trust are all clearly affected in some way as well. The letters of liberty are affected in the most peculiar of way, mostly towards the west of the letters, with the Y being the most glaringly obvious case. And then we have the date, where the clear tripling comes more plainly into focus. Look in particular towards the southeast of the letters, where you can clearly see the three distinct impressions, especially towards the tail and roundings of the 9 and 6, and inside the top left of the 0 as well. During 2022, this NGC graded coin at the Proof 68 red level was sold at public auction, where it managed to raise $703. Our next entry is the last of the proof coin varieties for this issue that we will be looking at this time around. And this coin is not another doubled obverse example, but rather a doubled reverse coin instead. This variety is specific to the large date obverse though. There are numerous minor examples of doubling on the reverse here to see, but the best and most obvious doubling on this variety is simply towards the east of the memorial building, where the top and bottom corners of the building are doubled due east to unmistakable effect. In 2023, a coin like this was sold at auction. It was slabbed by PCGS as Proof 67 red and saw a closing price of $1,200. From there, we look strictly at business strike coins, and also move promptly westwards towards the Denver Mint for the remainder of the varieties to look for. And our next example is quite the specimen at that. It is a small date over large date doubled obverse. The doubling is again pretty obvious, towards the left of the number 1, all over the right side of the number 9. The 6 is completely all over the place, and the 0 is clearly a small number over top an existing large number. In addition to this doubling, the coin is also a repunched mint mark variety, with extremely wide separation between the two strikings. The initial D mint mark, or at least what is left of the outline thereof, can be seen in between the final D placement and the 9 of the date. In 2024, this coin, graded by NGC as MS67 red, was sold at auction, where it achieved the final closing price of no less than $1,181. The final coin to look at for the 1960 pennies is a fairly simple variety compared to the others listed here, in that it is simply a repunched mint mark variety, although it is an absolutely beautiful example of just that. To identify the repunched D mint mark, simply look directly towards the left of the mint mark's position, and there is a crystal clear case of a repunched mint mark, with the entire vertical portion of the initial D clearly seen, including both top and bottom serifs. Now, sadly, despite being a phenomenal variety, its relative market value remains relatively low. In 2025, this PCGS graded MS66 red example was sold at auction. When all was said and done, the final price was $103.50, including the buyer's fee. Subscribe to WNN and feel free to watch another video about 1959 Lincoln cent varieties worth looking for next, right here. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.